Hello friends, this is Brent. I felt a calling to talk about motivation in the last couple days, and I wanted to make a video about it, what I've come to know about motivation. And so the title today is What Nobody Understands About Motivation. Now, it's not like I'm the only person in the world who understands motivation. There are a few others, and you will know some of them in your life too. These are people who just do not struggle with motivation. Do you know anybody in your life that does not struggle with motivation? Either say personally or as a celebrity. What does it look like? A lot of us have this idea about motivation that if we could just turn it on and just dial up our motivation all the way to the maximum, that we will never struggle with getting ourselves to do anything ever again, stay consistent. We will never have to experience the agony of getting yourself to do something you don't want to do, right? And this is not the right way of looking at it. Like, some of it's true, some of it's not, and we're going to sort all of it out in this talk today. So here's my big claim as we go into this. This is my big thing that I want you to hold me to, is that if you're willing to watch this video, if you're willing to listen to me speak about it, and I'll keep it as short and as potent as I possibly can, you will come away from this knowing how to motivate yourself. And you'll come out of this without needing to ask ever again about how can I motivate myself. So this question should be brought to a close for you as a result of what we're going to establish here. So that's what I'm going to do. Now hold me to this. So let me know if it worked for you, if it didn't work for you, if there's a question or an argument that I failed to address, although I'm going to do my best to address all of the usual arguments that come to whatever I'm about to say. And let's see what happens. Let's see if we can really bring your motivation issues to a close. Good. So now, before we go in, I am a coach, an intuitive, a healer, if we've never met before, and I do a lot of things. I offer principally my one-on-one session work with clients. And so if you're interested in that, there's a link for it below, and it teaches you everything you need to know about that, including how to get a free one-on-one session. And also you'll also find links to my Sovereign Creators Collective. This is a group coaching forum that I operate, and the other stuff that is available on my website. So you should see that all there. And please hit the like button if you are sufficiently interested in what we're about to get into. And so that is all the promo, and let us get into the show. So it would be responsible to start with a definition of motivation, make sure we're talking about the same thing. So motivation, simply to motivate, simply to move, to get you from a state of not doing something to doing it. This is a tricky thing, especially when we're discussing something that you kind of feel like you should do, but you struggle getting yourself to do it. Like, eating well, not eating poorly, going to the gym, meditating, etc., etc., etc. Just insert in here anything that is difficult, that it would be better if you did it, but you can't seem to get yourself to do it at all or consistently enough. So motivation is required to make that happen. So there are, in my estimation, there are two major ideas that the general public considers motivation to be that is wrong. And I'm basing this off of the time that I spent on Reddit, on r/getdisciplined. And I spent a lot of time in r/getdisciplined, like around, say, for quite a while, actually, from 2012, really all the way up until about 2020. So on and off, I had been there writing, posting, commenting, coaching people on that subreddit for 8 years. And I did it, for my own reasons, because I also just struggled with motivation and productivity and consistency. So I needed to get into it. But then I left Reddit and then came back later to find exactly the same questions being asked time and time again. And you can imagine from my perspective how heartbreaking it is to not be able to just share this with everyone. Because there's new people coming onto the subreddit. Some people are really young. You get posts from 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds. And it would be just so wonderful to be able to share all of this with everybody. So I have half a mind to post this video on that subreddit, but I think it's not allowed. So it's good that you're here at least. It's good that I can at least tell you about this, about motivation. So, okay, so the two ideas that people have about what it is that's wrong. So number one, we associate motivation with this sort of burst of energy that we all sometimes run into, where you kind of have your stable baseline amounts of motivation, and then you maybe listen to a motivational speech, or you watch like a movie like Rocky, or one of these movies that kind of makes you feel like rah rah, and then you go out for a jog at 6 a.m. in the morning, just like Rocky did, and you come home feeling like $1,000,000. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that's serotonin. That is like that exact feeling, right? And you're hooked. You're like, oh my God, this is what I do. This is my thing going on forever. You do it again. It's amazing. And do it again and again. And then we all know what happens eventually after a week or a couple weeks, depending on, the certain characteristics of you. Eventually the motivation runs away, runs out, runs dry. And then you just find yourself moving into this slog. And you're like, what the hell is going on? And it actually gets more and more difficult to do it, but you're so attached to that original first 2 or 3 days when you were just crushing it that you find it difficult to maintain, and then eventually impossible, and then it stops and it sucks and it's disappointing, right? So going through these loops. So our first erroneous idea of motivation is thinking that it's that it's that burst of energy that we sometimes get. And this is especially disempowering because it feels like a weather pattern over which we have no control. It's like, motivation's here, it's gone. How do I be in control of it? So the other erroneous idea that we have of motivation is those of us who say, oh, like there's no really any such thing as motivation. That which we call motivation is the ability to ignore our stop signals. So we're going for a jog every morning, as was the case for me at one point earlier, where it's like I'm getting up so early and I'm getting more and more tired because I'm kind of not going to bed on time. And so I think what I need to do is ignore my stop signals. So ignore my exhaustion, ignore my creeping fatigue over time, ignore the pain that starts to surface, and eventually even starting to ignore the physical symptoms of unwellness. And like your whole thing is to ignore those stop signals. This is the vibe that I get from speakers such as David Goggins, who I listened to just a little bit. I did a little foray into some of his material, and one refrain that came from what he was saying was, "Don't be a little bitch. You're a little bitch. And this is his inner monologue to himself. It's like, am I going to go run 100 miles or am I a little bitch? Right? And what that translates to, AKA not being a little bitch, is ignore your stop signals. Ignore when your body is asking you to stop. So that's not motivation either. Good. So what is motivation? What actually is it? So I would like for you now to consider motivation to be, here's the big answer. This is the center of our conversation here. Necessity. Necessity. So let me pose to you now a question, a big, open question. Take this in any direction you want to take it. What is necessary to you? Pause the video if you'd like. This would be a great idea. Just consider for a minute, pause the video and consider, what's necessary to me? What is? Is anything necessary? And if so, what? And for extra points, see if you can articulate why something is necessary to you. So say being really healthy is necessary to you. It's like, okay, why is that necessary? And it's like, maybe because I don't want to die earlier than I otherwise would, whatever that is. And we're not here to argue with any of it. We just want to know how your internal unspoken values are structured, because this will point to what motivates you. In fact, notice as you answer this question of what's necessary to me, you can use that interchangeably with what motivates me, right? It's both questions will give you exactly the same answers. The Venn diagram is a perfect circle in this case. So in general, there's sort of an arithmetic behind it. I really, really enjoy this. I enjoy teaching about this. It's if something is difficult for you to do, if it's difficult, right? In order to do it, you will only do it if you consider it to be necessary, period. And if you don't consider it to be necessary, then you won't do it, period. This is the defining characteristic between that which you will do and that which you won't do. Now, I will get sometimes a little bit of pushback here because somebody will say to me, well, Brent, I really do think going for a jog every morning is necessary. I really do think it's necessary, but I seem to never actually do it. I don't actually do it, and it's because I'm not motivated enough. And so I'm going to address that in a bit. But actually, firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what's necessary for me, just as a point of contrast, and to bring this loop to a close. And then I'm going to get to the addressing the argument. So for me, I have a list of 4 things. One is assisting in the awakening of human consciousness. So for me, I imagine humanity. I see humanity in the throes of a spiritual crisis. I see it on the cusp of massive awakening. Like human beings everywhere are starting to wake up in a spiritual sense in a way that never happened before. And that's extremely exciting to me, extremely motivating to me, and I want to participate in it. I want to be a part of it, and I almost like sometimes even feel a fear of missing out on it. Like I'm not afraid of not doing enough. It's not like that. Like I just want to do it because it's so exciting and it just draws me in. Number 2 is exploring my own personal potential for evolution and awakening. So evolution being like how expansive can I be? How much can I do and get done? And also how awakened can I be? How wise can I be? Number 3, maintaining my responsibilities impeccably. So like really masterfully taking care of my wife and my daughter and my house and my friends and my responsibilities as a citizen, say, even. And then finally, peak health, mastering my habits, getting rid of all my addictions, and just being healthy. I find this to be necessary. It is a felt necessity. So good. So just, for you to know, just as an interesting point of contrast, these are things that I find to be necessary. So, okay, returning to the arguments that people make. Now, all of the confusion that can be found in what we're discussing here boils down to self-deception. This is anybody that I've ever worked with in a one-on-one basis who has struggled with motivation. When we boil it down, when we get like finally to the very center of what we're talking about, we will find an attempt to both have your cake and also eat it, but then also have the cake and also eat it. In other words, trying to have it both ways, and really under a sort of mystical belief that somehow I'm able to have things both ways. And I'll explain to you what I mean. One way that this shows up is saying, I really do intend to be a person who goes for a jog every morning, but I don't need to start tomorrow. I don't need to jog right now. So like I don't need to do it right now. I don't need to do it tomorrow, but eventually I'm going to get started. Eventually I'm going to do it. One day I'm going to do it and it's all going to click into place and I'm going to get there one day. Another one is, say smoking, if you're battling with a smoking addiction. And if you are, you have my deepest sympathies. It's very difficult. Right. And so one of the things we say to ourselves is, okay, well, I mean, I'm going to have this one. I'm going to quit soon. I'm going to quit eventually. I really am going to quit. It's necessary for me to quit. I know I should quit, but I am going to have this one right now. Right. So in other words, we've convinced ourselves that it is necessary to quit, but it's not necessary to quit right now. And this is the having it of both ways. So take a minute now to consider something that you want motivation for. Let's take a new example. So a third example would be like, say, getting out of bed on time so that you can have a strong, productive morning ritual. But it starts with getting out of bed on time, which you find to be very difficult. If you truly found it necessary to get out of bed on time at the time you set, say it's 6 a.m., it would be exactly like getting up early enough to catch a flight for which you paid $2,000. This is an example I like to come to a lot. Where if you have a flight that requires you to get out of bed at 6 a.m., are you going to sleep in? You most certainly will not. Very few people ever do. It basically never happens. Like if you're like me and you have a flight that you have to catch and you have to get up early in the morning, you set like 3 alarms, don't you? And you put like one alarm clock like across the room, so you have to get out of your bed and go over to pick it up, because getting out of bed is totally necessary. This is what necessity feels like, right? Like I absolutely must. So that's what we're doing here. So now, okay, return to this example of you needing to get out of bed at 6 a.m. in the morning. And I said to you, as you're, getting ready to go to bed at night, I say, like, do you really intend to get out of bed in the morning? And if you say something like, yeah, I'm going to try, we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's really hard. Either tomorrow or the day after, or maybe I'll sleep in a little bit, but I eventually get out. All of this sort of language signifies sort of a non-commitment, like an unwillingness to really commit. And this is because you don't truly believe it's necessary to get out of bed tomorrow. So this is something that we have to clear up. So now I'm going to take you through an actual exercise, something that you can do for yourself to summon motivation. So give this a shot. Number 1, take a minute to consider something that you lament that you don't have enough motivation for. So in other words, what do you wish you had more motivation to do that you're not doing? Take a minute to figure that out. Good. Number 2, we start asking generally, is it necessary to do this thing? And really ask this not in a bullyish kind of way, but like really ask it in an open inquiry kind of way. Like, is it necessary for you? If the answer is yes, then proceed on to step 3. If the answer is no, and you're like, this is kind of a problem, then follow up with the question of, do I want it to be necessary? Would I like for this to be necessary? And if the answer to that is still no, then what we're talking about probably, like, there's no real reason for you to do it. Like, why are we even here? Why do you wish to be motivated for this in the first place? Like, really something's really off there. You may want to do some deeper digging and journaling there. I can't really help you from this position. But if you say yes, like, yes, I do want to be motivated by this thing, then that signals that on the deepest level, you do find this to be necessary. And so what you can do now here is declare to yourself, this is necessary. It's necessary to get this habit online. It's necessary that I do this tomorrow. It's necessary that I eat in this healthy way going forward. If at this point you feel something in your psychology kind of fighting back, like it says, yeah, it's like sort of doubting what you're saying, or it's rejecting what you're saying, don't worry about that. That's totally fine. All that matters is that you declare this as we move on. Good. Step 3. Ask if it is necessary to do this thing starting now. So now we've taken it from a general theoretical kind of position, and we're bringing it down into reality, which is now. We're bringing it here. Is it necessary to do this now? And, and by now I mean, like, say, within the next 24 hours. And what is your answer? If your answer is a resounding yes, like you feel it in your body almost, like a resounding yes, it is necessary for me to start right now, then good, proceed on to the next step. If the answer is no, but you actually did pass through step 2, that indicates denial. So your question to yourself now is, in what way am I bullshitting myself? How am I trying to both have and eat my cake? So if you're saying to yourself that, like, in general, like, say before my life ends or before it gets too late, I really should do this, but it's not necessary for me to do this tomorrow, then there's a disconnect. What it signals to you about you is that you actually don't believe in the future. you don't actually believe that you're going to die one day. You don't really believe it. Maybe you know it as sort of a vague intellectual fact, but you don't really know that you're going to die at some point in the near future. And by near future, that encompasses, up to 100 years or so, right? But like in the future, that's in a day that's coming. And it signals to you your relationship with time. You think that you have time. Please check out any of my videos on where I talk about your relationship with time. There's one really important one. I'm going to put a link for it on. You should see it on the video for you to talk where I talk about exactly this phenomenon. But you believe that you have time in such a way that you believe it is a basically infinite resource, or at minimum, you have enough of it that you can spare, like that you can throw it around, that you're so wealthy with it that you can let a certain amount of days go by, and it doesn't really matter that much. So you have to, honesty is so crucial here, right? Because this is a very searing thing very terrible thing really to discover in ourselves if we're being honest. One way of overcoming this for you is to open a Microsoft Excel sheet or a Google Sheets spreadsheet, right? And have like a series of columns where it goes 52 down. So like make a box, say, that goes 52 down and maybe let's say 80 across, so 52 by 80. And this would represent how many weeks left you have to live if you are in your 20s, right? So adjust based on your age and look at how many spots you have in that rectangle. And you may be disturbed by how few there are. It's like it really is a finite amount. It's really essential for you to see that we, on one hand, we have all the time we need, and this is really true. But on the other hand, it's not like we have so much time that it can be wasted or we can just fuck around with it, right? There's enough time for us to get our shit together and get our habits online, but there's no time to just think about it and speak about it in a theoretical way. If you're going to do it, now is the time. When people have a midlife crisis, by the way, this is exactly what we're talking about. Like if you do this exercise with the spreadsheet that I'm telling you about, it will, if it hits its mark, it will create in you a blank life crisis. So, midlife crisis, third life crisis, quarter life crisis. Like it really should. It'll show to you that your life is passing by. And this awareness, this isn't to upset you, and I apologize if this is upsetting you in any way, but we need to see this. We need to have a proper relationship with time in order to establish motivation. Because if we just feel like time is like basically an infinite resource, how could we possibly be motivated? Why would we do anything if we feel like we're just going to live infinitely? Why would we do anything? The only reason why we do anything that's difficult is because we feel we have to. Good. So I'll just one more time. So number one is, what do you need motivation for? Articulate that. Number two, ask if it's necessary in general. Articulate why, and if not, figure that out. And step three is it necessary for you to get started right now? And if the answer is no, it indicates denial. So sort out the denial and go into it with your honesty. And if the answer is yes, then step four, the final step, is to act accordingly. Create a plan. Execute the plan. Now you'll notice that there's nothing in this discussion about making this easy, because great discipline is still required. Like it's still difficult, and depending on what you have ahead of you, it could be very, very difficult. Like, you may be smashing up into a wall. Like it could be very hard, but establishing necessity means that we have to find a way over this river. And so it puts it into a have to category where now your best creativity is being put toward it so that you can find a solution, find a way, whatever that way is. And also like there's room in this worldview, in this perspective, for failure, for fucking it up, for accidentally still sleeping in even though you didn't mean to. But with necessity firmly in place, It means that I know that if I check in on you a month later, you will be closer to it. If you don't have it totally done, it's more done than it was last time. If I know necessity is absolutely established in you, then my bet on you is that you're going to get this thing going, right? So that's the importance of necessity. Good. Okay, so really that's the whole thing. Now, there's one more section that I want to tag on here because it plays into our conversation. Even though, like, if you've made it this far, then you have everything you need to establish motivation, and you should let me know in the comments section if this talk hit its mark or not. I sincerely want to know either way. Even if I failed at hitting my mark, I want to know. So we need to talk a little bit about motivation and spiritual awakening, because this represents a really unusual and significant problem where you may be attracted on some level to the path of self-actualization, as I am, right? So becoming as good as you can be, doing what you came here to do, seeing what you're capable of doing, right? So all of that falls under self-actualization, just, blossoming the fullness of your potential. But then that's kind of a different path then from the path of awakening, which is generally becoming aware of what you are aside from a sense of self, aside from a sense of a person, and really thinking that you're a person is a form of hypnosis that consciousness is under. And so if you move in this direction, then a lot of the stuff that used to motivate us no longer motivates us, especially very negative fear-based forms of motivation, such as insecurity, comparing yourself to others, worthiness issues, feeling like you're above or below certain people, needing to prove yourself to your parents or to your friends or in general, needing to get retribution or revenge, say, needing to feel like you're better than other people. Being motivated by greed, being motivated by sex, and needing to be have greater access to the mating pool, this kind of thing. So all of these are egotistical forms of motivation that can be very powerful and very motivating, to the extent that our sense of necessity is embedded in them. For example, if we feel like it's very necessary to become a millionaire so that you have enough money to say fuck you to your parents or something, just as an example, and it's necessary, or say Trump and his sense of necessity on getting back at his political enemies as another example, then this is incredibly motivating. But once you pass through spiritual awakening, then the grip that these motivating forces have on you goes, it's totally gone. And this can be very disconcerting for a person who goes through the awakening experience, or a person who's just kind of considering going through it. A lot of people say when they're considering this is I don't want to lose my edge. I don't want to lose the part of me that, really, wakes up and wants to crush the day. So I can share with you what I found as a result, because I too, going into the study and the experience of awakening, I was also very attached to my old forms of motivation and the desire to be productive. I didn't want to lose any of that. I didn't want to be just some old dude sitting on a stump somewhere not getting anything done. I wanted to participate in society and self-actualize. I didn't want to lose that. So my good news for you is that, if this is you, is that awakening doesn't get rid of a sense of necessity. What it does get rid of is the sense of negative motivation, the egotistical motivation, as we were talking about. But it's still motivated by positive motivations, such as inspiration, love, service, the desire to participate in something larger than itself, being motivated by peace and creating abundance wherever it is, supporting individuals, and so much creativity and and a lot of intensity can be channeled toward that. You can be intensely motivated, intensely productive, in a state of great activity after awakening. So there's no need to be concerned about that. All awakening does is it teaches you, it shows to you in a way that cannot be denied, the difference between the absolute and the relative realms. It shows to you how you exist in a relative way and in an absolute way. It shows the part of you that is birthless and deathless, and by contrast to the part of you that is birthed and will one day die. But it doesn't, like, there's usually an idea about awakening, like the relative stops mattering. That's not true at all. That which is relative is absolutely important. It's just seen as relative and held as relative, and the absolute is seen as absolute, and the relative is seen as absolute as well. For more on that, check out my other video called More Motivation Than You'll Ever Need, where I also talk about these things and discerning between the two. But nevertheless, we are still relative humans in the world, and so there's a lot of work to do. And even though there's no fear or scarcity around it, there's a desire to do it and participate. And so motivation you will still find after awakening. So that's what I came here to say. Please tap that like button if you enjoyed, if you got something out of it. Leave a comment. I really want to know how I did. I want to know if I helped you with your motivation issues. I will help you in the comments section if you still have another question. Help yourself to a free one-on-one private session. See all the information for that below. I would love to chat with you. Check out the Sovereign Creators Collective. Subscribe. And thank you for watching.